big hello to everyone. Welcome back to our little storytelling circle. Today, we're diving into a story where months of meticulous planning and millions of dollars in training are all flushed down the toilet because of one tiny, unexpected screw-up. A story about a single Turkish-made drone, a Russian landing craft full of spooks, and a $70,000 missile blew a massive, gaping hole in one of Russia's most secret operations in the Black Sea. How did a glorified remote-controlled airplane, piloted by some guy probably chugging lukewarm coffee in a shipping container, manage to unravel a high-stakes Black Ops mission? Let's get into it. It's June 2025. The war in Ukraine has become a grinding, nasty affair. The Southern Front, particularly around the Black Sea and the Kherson region, is a hotbed of cat-and-mouse games. The Russians are desperate to regain initiative, to strike deep behind Ukrainian lines, to cause chaos. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, are playing a desperate game of defense, using every scrap of intelligence and every piece of high-tech gear they can get their hands on to watch the coastlines like hawks. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a bayonet. Every unidentified boat, every blip on a radar screen could be either a fisherman trying to make a living or the prelude to a full-blown disaster. Now, let's get to the fun part. We're going to peel this onion back layer by layer, using our famous 6-layer military analysis framework to figure out what the hell really happened out there in the dark. Let's start with Layer 1, strategy and tactics. Let's break down the thinking on both sides. First, the Russians. Their strategy was clearly one of stealth and surprise. They believed they were operating under the radar. Literally, they were using fast, low-profile boats in the dead of night, probably assuming Ukrainian naval patrols were thin and that their air defense bubble would keep any pesky drones away. Their objective, as it seemed at first, was a beach landing. The convoy's heading was pointing directly to a stretch of beach 8 kilometers west of Kherson, an area where Ukrainian ground troops had already reported suspicious activity. So, the Russian plan seemed to be, sneak in, land a team of soldiers, have them do something, and then scoot back to Crimea before sunrise. It's a classic Special Forces playbook. But here's the flaw in their thinking: overconfidence. They underestimated the 24/7 unblinking eye of the TB2. They thought the dark was their friend, but on a thermal camera, the dark doesn't exist. Their warm engines and warm bodies were glowing like Christmas lights. Now, the Ukrainian side. For 27 minutes, the drone operator did nothing but watch, track, and report. He was a fisherman waiting for the perfect moment to set the hook. He watched the convoy, identified the vessel types, and noted the heat signatures on deck. At least 24 of them, moving around with the purpose of infantry, not sailors. This is crucial intelligence gathering. At 04:15, after building a complete picture of the situation, the operator gets the call from his command center, cleared to engage. This decision is a huge one. A single MAML missile costs $70,000 and the drone is only carrying 4. That's over $250,000 worth of ordnance. More importantly, attacking reveals your hand. The moment that missile leaves the rail, the Russians know they're being watched by a drone in this sector. You give away your position, your capability. But the Ukrainian command did the math. The potential reward, neutralizing a mysterious special operations force before it could land, outweighed the risk of revealing their drone's presence. And their tactic, beautifully simple and brutal. Target the lead vessel. Don't go for the stragglers in the back. Hit the command element, the point of the spear. By taking out the first boat, you cause maximum confusion and chaos. The rest of the convoy is forced to react. Their plan is instantly shattered, and they have to decide between continuing the mission, rescuing their comrades, or running for their lives. The TB2's autopilot was instructed to break its lazy patrol pattern, banking into a wide arc to position itself directly behind the convoy, the perfect angle for a shot down the tailpipe. This is where everything goes beautifully, horribly right. It's 04:42. The drone is in position, 8 kilometers out. But then, 2 things happen. First, the 2 trailing Russian vessels suddenly change course. One veers north, the other south. They aren't just following anymore, they are setting up a perimeter. They are sealing off the landing zone. Then, the second thing happens. It's 04:46. The operator has the lead boat locked in his crosshairs. He squeezes the trigger to fire the missile, and his screen flashes a message that would make any gamer throw their controller through a wall. Warning: laser malfunction. Recalibrate. At the most critical second of the entire operation, The high-tech, multi-million-dollar killing machine gets the equivalent of the blue screen of death. The $70,000 missile is useless if the laser painter doesn't work. For a few agonizing seconds, the entire mission hangs in the balance. What does the operator do? Does he panic? No, he does what any of us would do with a faulty piece of electronics. He performed the sacred, time-honored ritual of turn it off and back on again. A quick system reboot for 10 seconds, which must have felt like an eternity. The fate of the Russian crew hung on a software glitch. And then, ping, the laser is back online. The universe decided to give him a second chance. During this brief, heart-stopping pause, the operator notices something else on his super zoom camera. The deck of the landing craft is unusually crowded with extra crates strapped to the sides. This isn't standard infantry gear. Something is off. Finally, at 04:47, take 2, the MAM-L drops from the drone's hardpoint. Its fins deploy, and its seeker immediately starts hunting for that laser dot painted on the center of the Cerna. At 04:48, impact, the MAM-L strikes the boat right amidships. There's a primary explosion as the 10-kilo warhead does its job, tearing a hole through the hull. And this is where the story goes from a successful strike to an intelligence goldmine of the highest order. This is the fallout. Just 1.3 seconds after the initial impact, a series of violent secondary explosions erupt from the wreckage, but these aren't the cook-offs of ammunition or fuel. The thermal camera shows brilliant, white-hot jets of fire shooting into the sky. It's thermite, specialized demolition charges, and a lot of them. The Ukrainian intelligence officers watching the live feed in some bunker somewhere must have jumped out of their skins. This wasn't a team of naval infantry coming to raid a trench. This was a team of elite combat engineers, saboteurs, carrying enough high-grade thermite to level a bridge, a command center, or a critical piece of infrastructure. The Cerna wasn't a troop transport. It was a floating bomb, delivering a team of demolition artists to their canvas. The mystery of the suspicious activity was solved. The Russians were planning a major sabotage attack deep behind Ukrainian lines. This brings us to Layer 2, technology and weapons. Let's talk about the toys. The star of the show is, of course, the Bayraktar TB2. The Western media loves to call this thing a game changer. Well, it's more like the world's most annoying and lethal pest. It's Turkey's answer to the American Predator drone. Not the fastest or the stealthiest, but its party trick is its incredible endurance. This thing can stay airborne for 27 hours straight, thanks to its little Rotax 9.2 engine, the same kind of engine you might find in a light aircraft. But its real magic isn't the drone itself, it's the eyeball it carries. The TB2 was equipped with a Canadian-made Westcam MX-15D sensor ball. They say it can read a license plate from 20 kilometers away. In thermal mode, it can spot a human body's heat signature from miles up, turning the pitch-black night into a crystal-clear diorama of life and death. The drone operator isn't flying the plane in the traditional sense. They're sitting in a ground control station, which is basically a fancy trailer, watching the world through this all-seeing eye. They are a god in a box, a high-tech peeping Tom with missile launch authority. And what about the missile? The weapon of choice here was the MAM-L, the smart micro munition. Don't let the micro fool you. This thing weighs 22 kilograms, with a 10-kilogram warhead designed to punch through light armor. Each one costs a cool $70,000. So, you don't just fire these off like party poppers. The guidance system is semi-active laser homing. In common terms, the drone operator points a laser designator at the target, an invisible dot of light, and the missile follows that dot all the way down. It's simple, brutally effective, but it has a catch. The drone has to keep that laser painted on the target for the entire duration of the missile's flight. In this case, from its optimal range of 8 kilometers, that's a 43-second-long stare down where you cannot flinch. Now, let's look at the Russian tech. The target was a Project 1170 Cerna-class landing craft. Let's be clear, this is not a warship. It's a glorified landing barge, a 26-meter-long flat-bottom boat designed to do one thing: drive right up onto a beach and vomit out its cargo, which could be 92 troops or one main battle tank. The key feature here is its shallow draft and water jet propulsion. It moves less like a boat and more like a giant, angry speedboat, allowing it to get into places bigger ships can't. It's a tool for surprise amphibious assaults. And on this night, there were 3 of them, moving in a convoy. This leads us right into Layer 3, deployment and formation. The way forces are arranged on the battlefield tells you a story. A single patrol boat might be just that. a patrol. But 3 specialized landing craft moving in formation in the middle of the night, that's not a patrol. That's an operation. At 03:47, when the first hotspot appeared on the TB2 operator's thermal display, it was just a blob. But as he zoomed in, he identified the lead vessel as the Cerna. Then, 5 kilometers behind it, 2 more identical heat signatures. This is where any competent intelligence analyst's ears would perk up. A convoy. The lead boat was hauling ass at 30 knots, its water jet kicking up a huge thermal plume. The 2 trailing boats were following in its wake. This was a classic military formation for a special insertion. 1 or 2 boats go in to do the dirty work, while others provide support, distraction, or serve as a backup extraction team. And that brings us to the meat of the issue. Layer 4, positioning and terrain. The playground for this incident is the Western Black Sea, specifically the maritime approaches to Kherson. This patch of water is a nightmare for both sides. For the Russians, it's a potential highway to insert troops and saboteurs. For the Ukrainians, it's a massive, porous border that's impossible to watch all at once. Adding to the fun, the area is lousy with Russian S-300 air defense systems. They are designed to shoot down anything bigger than a pigeon flying at a decent altitude. So, how does a Ukrainian drone even operate here? This is where the genius, or the sheer balls-out audacity comes in. The Bayraktar TB2 drone that stars in our story didn't just fly in a straight line. It took off from a hidden airfield near Mykolaiv and began a long, meandering flight path, staying at a cozy 18,000 feet. The operators were playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek, deliberately exploiting what are called radar gaps. Think of it like this. An air defense system is like a series of overlapping security spotlights. If you're smart, you can find the dark patches in between them. The TB2 pilot flew a route that kept him at least 50 kilometers away from any known S-300 battery, hugging the edges of their detection envelopes. It's a high-wire act. One wrong turn, one unexpected radar pop-up, and their multi-million-dollar drone becomes a cloud of shrapnel. By 03:30 in the morning, the drone had reached its designated patrol area, a rectangular box of airspace, 40 by 20 kilometers. That acted as a virtual tripwire for anything trying to sneak towards the Kherson coast. The location wasn't just a random spot on the map, it was a carefully chosen kill box. And this is where we hit our final 2 layers. Layer 5, geopolitics and the big picture. What were the strategic consequences of this $70,000 shot? Immediate and devastating for the Russians. Intercepted burst transmissions revealed emergency recalls being sent out to other clandestine units. Within a week, satellite imagery confirmed that special operations vessels were being pulled back to the safety of Sevastopol harbor. Russian special operations in the entire Western Black Sea. The sneaky sabotage missions, the insertions, coastal harassment, ground to a complete halt. That one missile didn't just kill a team of operators, it killed an entire strategic campaign. It injected a massive dose of paranoia into the Russian command. They now knew they could be watched anywhere, anytime. The Black Sea was no longer their private lake. Finally, Layer 6, the human and psychological element. What happened next tells you everything you need to know about the Russian mindset in this operation. As the lead Cerna broke in half and began to sink, the 2 trailing vessels, the ones that were setting up a perimeter, did not turn to rescue their comrades. There was no man overboard scramble. Instead, intercepted radio traffic wasn't about coordinating a rescue, it was filled with panicked code words about operational security and mission compromise. Both vessels executed immediate crash turns and gunned it back towards Crimea. They left their brothers in arms to die in the cold, dark water. Why? Because the mission and the secret of what they were carrying was more important than the men. The 30 or so operators on that boat, who had trained for months for this single night, were now considered acceptable losses. The human cost was secondary to covering their tracks. Meanwhile, the TB2, having done its dirty work, loitered over the wreckage, its godlike eye capturing images of waterproof cases bobbing in the debris, some with Cyrillic markings clearly visible. The Ukrainians didn't just sink a boat, they recovered the entire enemy playbook. They now knew what kind of special operations teams Russia was using, what kind of equipment they carried, and what their objectives were. It was the single most important intelligence find of the year for them, all thanks to a laser glitch and some very nervous Russian sailors throwing evidence into the sea. So, to wrap it all up, a single drone, through a combination of brilliant tactical positioning, high-tech surveillance, a bit of luck with a malfunctioning laser, and a commander willing to take a calculated risk managed to do more than just sink a boat. It exposed a secret, neutralized a major threat, and strategically neutered Russian black ops in a critical theater of war. It's a perfect microcosm of 21st century conflict, where the guy in the air-conditioned trailer can be more decisive than a battalion, where data is more valuable than armor, and where overconfidence can get your most elite soldiers killed by an enemy they never even saw. It was a monumental screw-up for one side, and a stroke of genius, luck, and tactical brilliance for the other. So, what do you guys think? Was this a masterclass in modern drone warfare by the Ukrainians, or was it just a case of catastrophic Russian incompetence and bad luck? Was the operator who rebooted the laser a hero, or just the luckiest bastard in the entire war? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the beautiful, terrifying absurdity of military history. Stay safe out there.